What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chasing Pelagics channel. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube and also follow us along on Facebook and Instagram. Went on a little 2-day trip on the Constitution with some buddies over the weekend, and just giving you a breakdown of what we saw in the water and how fishing went. We started off leaving Friday night, and we slid out to 178 because you have to on the way out, where that big stuff was, and there's a lot of volume there. All of last week that we talked about, lots of guys getting fish on skiffs and a crazy ordeal. And sure enough, we headed out there for the night bite, and it was a parking lot. I've never seen so many sport boats in one area. Plenty of private boats out there still, trying to get after it in the dark as well. And it was a giant parking lot. And we gave it our all. I think I went to bed somewhere just past 3:30, and the whole boat had one 20-pound bluefin on a flat fall in the dark. And I'll start off by saying this is the first time I've been on an open party trip in probably three or 4 years. Just been on charter trips with experienced fishermen or running my own boat. And I hadn't been on an open party charter in quite some time. And man, it was an awakening for me, the number of inexperienced people that bring the wrong gear on the boat or aren't sure how to do stuff. I mean, that's what deckhands are for, and they're obviously going to help out. But usually you don't see too much of that on a 2-day trip, overnight trip or a 3/4 day. I definitely expect it. But there was not a lot of skill on the boat when it comes to fishermen. There's probably, I'd say, 7 or 8 total out of the group of 25 that could actually fish pretty good. So don't always believe the boat numbers as the end-all, be-all. The boat numbers are only as good as the skilled fishermen on it. And that should be a wake-up call for all of you internet fishermen that are always waiting on a boat's count before you book a reservation. Now you know. So, needless to say, we hit it hard. I think I slept like 2 hours. I was back up at 5:30. Everything around the 178 looked exactly the same as it did in the dark. Nothing going on. So a lot of the captains were calling around to each other, trying to figure out which way they want to split up and whatnot. The Constitution was previously on a 2-day before that. They slid down to below the Coronados, looked at some bluefin down there that did not want to cooperate whatsoever. So that was out of the question. They did go out to San Clemente on the front side on that trip. Hooked a bunch in the dark with a bunch of inexperienced people. They hooked 13 at one time, all over 100 pounds, and they only ended up with 4 on that trip. So they knew that this would bite, so this was going to be an option. But before they went to that in the dark, they wanted to do some poking around. So we started sliding up the canyon. We got probably just past the 209. There was some life right in this area. We saw some big foamers pushing bait up, put on a real good show. Did not want to bite anything with a hook in it whatsoever. Again, smaller grade fish on the foamers. And that was pretty much the story. So we started heading towards San Clemente Island. Nothing really happened in between the 209 until we got to the 289, and then there was foamers everywhere. Every direction you looked, there was a foamer, and that continued to be the case all the way to San Clemente Island. Everything on top was smaller grade stuff. There might have been one stop earlier in the day that we saw some mixed fish, some bigger ones in, but it was not a foamer. It was just a quiet, wide breezer of some bigger fish in here. But again, they did not want to bite anything with a hook in it. Didn't want a jig, didn't want a sardine, didn't want a sinker rig. I mean, you name it, we tried it. They didn't want it. So that's how we ended up at San Clemente. We got there right around, I'd say like 3:30, 4 o'clock. And we tried some of these foamers, and they didn't want it either. We ended up sliding a little bit tighter into the island, almost near the 100 fathom curve. We're just outside it a little bit, and we found a little breezer of smaller fish. on the sundowner bite that wanted to start participating. Um, so that's what we did, and that's what we stuck with. We ended up having to drop down all the way. I mean, I dropped down to 20 and was finally able to get a bite, but they didn't really want to participate on 40 pound. My friends are fishing 25 pound. They got bit. Scooter got a really nice one here. I picked up a couple other smaller ones. I got a decent one on 20 here also. Um, but yeah, we just had a little sundowner bite, and then that school was done with. And then we went to the night operations again, and it was basically drive around, sonar a school, and as soon as we hit one, try and put the boat in reverse and stop right on top of it, and then just get your jigs down as fast as possible to get right on top of them. And usually they bit as soon as you got to that level. They bit really really well. Uh, we did this all night, uh, and I'll tell you that they particularly were fond of jigs that were red with a glow stripe. I don't know why. This is not a color jig that I had on the boat. Uh, they did sell them at the landing, but a couple guys had them. My buddy Miles picked up one just for the hell of it, and lo and behold, he ended up hooking one that was definitely over 100, and he went around the boat for a while on a brand new Talica 25 that I talked him into picking up for this trip because he didn't have a 100 pound setup, and he lost that fish. It broke the braid, just snapped it, straight up snapped it. Clean break too. So it just shows you that there's some dinosaurs that are down there for sure. Another experienced guy on our boat, Dorian, had that hot jig, that red stripe with the glow, and that thing worked awesome. I think he hooked the most fish in the dark early on in the night. He got a big one really quick. It swam right to the boat. I think he had it on in like 15 minutes. It was somewhere around like 130, 150, somewhere in that range. And then not too long after that, we stopped at another school, and he hooked one about the same size, except for that one did not come to the boat right away. He fought that thing hard, and we picked up a couple of other fish in that on that same drift as well. But as soon as he got it close to the boat, we noticed that there was some sea lions hanging around, and I was like, "There's no way the sea lion is going to mess with 150, 200 pound tuna. There's no way." Like, I mean, I get if we were on the island anchored up, they come mess with the yellowtail. As soon as that thing got even a shimmer of it near the boat, this 1,000 pound knothead seal comes up from underneath the boat, grabs it by the tail, and took him for a ride. And he ended up fighting that thing for like, I'd say close to 30 minutes. And he finally did get it back. It whooped his butt. Fish was pretty tore up on the tail, and it actually got a little bite out of the belly too. But after that, he put himself to bed. I think he was done. So I only had one jig that had glow stripes. I had tried the SKs. I had tried a knife jig. There was a Shimano one. Tried Colt snipers. I tried every jig in my box, and they were not particularly interested. The only one I had left was this Taddy jig that's new this year, Katy Perry with the stripes. So I was like, well, maybe it's just a pattern thing. So I tied that thing on, and we only drove like maybe 200 yards from that first school that he lost that or had the sea lion on it, and dropped down, and I never fished this jig before, so it kind of has a weird drift. It kind of glides down. I can't really describe it very well, but it doesn't go straight down. It just kind of glides down at an angle, if that makes sense. But anyways, thought I was pretty deep, like well over 400, and I paused it and locked it in gear, and then that's when it got bit. It didn't get bit on the way down. Just as soon as I stopped, locked it. It got bit, and so the guy next to me, same time. And that was definitely a big fish. Worked on the rail for a while. And then that damn sea lion that was after Dorian's fish ended up grabbing mine. And then I had, knowing when I saw him go through, I was not very happy about being hooked up to the sea line because it was going to be a battle. And I had the rod against the rail, drag as tight as I was comfortable with on 130, and I fought it for a while. I finally made my way to the corner, got it locked in the corner pretty good, and he was just out pulling it hard, and the jig pulled out of the fish's mouth. So I gave it my all. I wish I could have got that one back, but man, I thought I hated seals before. I really really don't particularly care for them now. Now that I know that they're starting to affect offshore fishing, that's really, really annoying. So that was that. A friend of Dorian's ended up tying on Dorian's red and white jig to his own rod while everyone else went to bed. I think I put myself to bed around 2. I was pretty gassed from basically 22 hours at the rail nonstop. And I went to bed, and he ended up catching 5 more fish on it between 2:30 and sunrise. None of the big ones. They were all between like 25 and 60. But I can just tell you that I bought some red and white strip jigs for my next trip. So those are definitely in my box, and I would recommend the same to you guys. I know I'm kind of always had that thought that you just buy something that is common and works good. But I really think it was a good experience to have something that's not in your box that to you and I wouldn't look like something that a fish would bite when they absolutely just bit the hell out of it. So keep that in mind. Maybe not stock up a whole bunch of weird stuff, but keep a handy off-color jig that just doesn't potentially make sense to something that you would think would get bit, but actually might get bit. I also did try, just for giggles, I had a 12-inch squid that was frozen that I had already pre-rigged with a big old circle hook. And I fished that as a sinker rig on some of those bigger schools, and no fish wanted it whatsoever. So they really didn't care about a squid whatsoever. Just before bed, there was definitely some lightning going on in the background, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But apparently, it turned into a real show after I went to bed. And when I woke up, we ended up having lightning in the morning, downpours, and we went back to fishing the foamers and sonar schools. But I'll tell you, same as yesterday, nothing wanted to play when the sun was up whatsoever. So we ended up heading back home, and beautiful day outside, going downwind, man, it's hot. And lo and behold, we get back to that 178 9 Mile Bank area, and I'll tell you, it was just as fishy as it was 2 days before. Saw big fish foamers up on top. There was no sport boats around then. This is like Sunday at like 4 o'clock, and I saw a striped marlin jump out of the water about 100 feet from the boat. That was pretty rad all by itself. And it looked super fishy, man. It was all the way to like 6 miles from the beach. Was it just on fire? I wish we had time to fish that, because that would have been game over. But yeah, that's the story. And had a great trip with the guys. Good crew, good cap. And I'll be on that boat again for sure. So heads up on the flying fish lures. I've updated some of our guys' inventory. We are now available at Performance Tackle in Los Alamitos, the Longfin in Orange, Ketchum Tackle, Costa Mesa, and now there is a large inventory at H&M Landing in San Diego for the San Diego guys, and looking to have some over at Hogan's and Dana Point here. I'm going to call it Saturday morning, because I still got to drop it off tomorrow, but that's the plan. So be on the lookout for those. If you like what you saw today, you can subscribe to our channel or follow us along on Instagram and Facebook. And always remember, share the stoke.